TV Man. This one comes at us from Kyle Harrison. This one is weird, which says a lot considering we're talking about creepypastas. But anyway, it's about a guy named Brendan who delivers old TVs to people's houses. The catch being, he's not in control of his actions. He's actually cursed and delivers these TVs against his will. Unable to stand doing this anymore without any rhyme or reason, he seeks a way to break this curse. And apparently, the only thing that can do that is something called Mr. TV. Yeah. He finds a video that gives him some instructions on how to summon this thing. It's worth noting, this thing is said to be the estranged, more technological cousin of Slender Man. Right. Brendan does what the video says. He summons Mr. TV, and then the story goes from weird to weirder. Mr. TV removes its own head, which is, of course, an old TV, and hands it to Brendan. He's motioned to put it on his head, so he does, figuring this is the only way to escape the curse. Once he does, he starts seeing a whole bunch of random faces, and basically, he becomes Mr. TV. I don't really think much of this one. I don't really find it that scary, nor is it really all that memorable. There isn't too much of a shock factor. There isn't really much of a plot, for that matter, at least not that I can tell, or really anything that I personally find interesting. I don't want to sound too harsh. I don't think it's not the worst story I've ever read, but this is one I personally wouldn't recommend. I guess it's just too strange, and I don't know. I don't really find old TVs to be all that scary. Plus, the whole thing about this thing being Slender Man's estranged and more technologically advanced cousin, I don't know how to feel about that. I'm gonna give this one a D plus. What haunted the fields? This one's about a farmer named Hicks who takes in a 17-year-old kid named Jonas in exchange for doing some work on his farm. Jonas notices some unfamiliar movement in the fields one day and tries to bring this to Hicks' attention, but Hicks is always shrugging it off or telling Jonas not to worry about it. One night, Jonas hears some strange noises in the field and decides to investigate. What he finds is legitimately disturbing. He finds a dead man that's nailed to a piece of wood and is stuffed with hay, kind of like a scarecrow. Jonas then sees a pair of glowing red eyes and immediately runs away, without even seeing what was staring at him. He finds Hicks and tells him about what he discovered, and again, Hicks just shoots it down and tells Jonas not to worry about it and to stay out of the fields during the nighttime. One night, Jonas sees the glowing red eyes in the field again, and he hears the screams of a woman. He grabs Hicks' gun and goes back into the field to try and find the woman, but much like the previous victim, he finds her dead and stuffed up like a scarecrow. Jonas sees the red eyes and again makes a break for the farm. This time, the red-eyed creature follows him. He hides in his room and is found by Hicks. This is where we find out what the red-eyed creature is. It's Hicks. He picks up hitchhikers and turns them into scarecrows, essentially. To be honest, I like this story. It has a very urban legend kind of feel to it. Like the legend of the red-eyed farmer who hated crows so much he was willing to kill over it. It sounds like a bit of a simple concept, and in some ways I can see why some would think it's a bit predictable, but I don't think it's necessarily bad. I'm going to give this one a B. The Year of the Clown. This one is written by Bunny B03. At least I hope I think it's B03. It might be B03, but it's about a guy that recalls when he was 6, and after seeing some footage of who we can assume is John Wayne Gacy, and hearing about what he did, it absolutely traumatizes him, and he develops a fear of clowns. This fear sticks with him throughout his life. We're then informed of random clown sightings going on. Boy, that sounds familiar. One night, he has a fight with his son over him going out on Halloween, due to him thinking that his son's a bit too old, and all the clown sightings are kind of making him a bit uneasy and fearful for his son's safety. After a while, he goes to check on his son and notices that he's sleeping. So he just turns the light off and leaves him alone. Then he's doing the dishes and sees a clown sitting outside of his house staring right at him through his window. This obviously freaks him out. He takes his son back to his ex-wife, and on his way home, he notices that he's being followed by the same clown that he saw the other night outside of his house staring through his window, which causes him to get a bit nervous, as it would anyone. He gets home and is confronted by the clown, who pulls a gun on him. Before the clown can shoot, the guy stabs him. This is where we get the big plot twist. The gun was a fake water gun, and the clown was his son. This story is pretty good. I really love how it shadowed actual events, such as the clown sightings a few years back, and the mention of seeing footage of, as I said, who we can assume is John Wayne Gacy. I think this story is rather grounded, and I think it's actually better for that reason. I was actually very vague with a lot of the plot points with this one, but needless to say, I do recommend it. Is it perfect? No, but I'm still going to give it an A. A campfire story of sorts. This one is written by David Feeling. This one is pretty interesting in that nothing too much happens, really. This one's actually rather short. It's about a guy who's out in the wilderness during the winter time, sitting in front of a fire for warmth. He then starts hearing the fire start to talk to him, telling him to come closer, and that if it goes out, he will die. The man apparently touches the fire, and he burns to death. We find this information out through a news broadcast that his charred remains are found, and that he appears to have a smile on his face. This one, as I mentioned, is really short, but it's a bit ambiguous. Like I said, nothing too much happens in this one. It's not very supernatural. There's not much of a plot. It's more or less one you either might really love or really hate. Personally, I think it's pretty good. It's short, so it's pretty easy to get through. It has a bit of a disturbing kind of feel to it, And the idea of a guy going insane and thinking that a fire is talking to him, it is pretty disturbing. I also really like that we find out that he burned to death via a broadcast from the news. It was an interesting plot twist. It's worth mentioning that we never find out if the fire actually spoke to him or if he was just imagining it. I think this works in the story's advantage. I'm going to give this one a B. Thanks for watching, guys. I know Creepypasta-Thon this year is a bit unconventional, a bit different, but I got way behind, and I figured this was kind of a unique way to try to catch up, is maybe combining some of the reviews in one video. Some of these stories are rather short, so I didn't see the harm in it. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of these stories. I am going to finish up the rest of the reviews for Creepypasta-Thon. I'm going to finish Creepypasta-Thon 2019 as promised. So with that said, till next time, I'm Justin Crumley, and this is Cujo Productions, signing out.